The janitor's closet in the east wing of St. Alder High had been locked for over 30 years. Rumors buzzed through generations of students, each telling a different version of why it had been sealed. Some said it was a storage room. Others swore it was a detention room from the 1970s that housed a student who died mysteriously. But one thing every version agreed on was the number, 404. Not that the room even had a plaque anymore, just a rusted nail where it might have once hung. The metal doorknob was cold year-round, even in the brutal July heat, and no key worked on it. Every janitor, teacher, or principal since 1988 had simply ignored it, until Mason, our senior class president, decided he'd had enough of the rumors. He was one of those loud, always proving something guys. So, naturally, he dragged 3 of us, me, Tori, Jenna, and Malik, into his late-night plan. We'd sneak in after hours with bolt cutters and flashlights, break into the east wing, and prove to everyone that room 404 was nothing more than an empty closet. We got in through the science lab's back window. That was easy. What wasn't easy was how dark the hallways felt, even with our flashlights. I swear, the light didn't travel more than 5 feet ahead of us, as if the darkness was swallowing it. Jenna kept whispering that it smelled like burnt wires. I hadn't noticed it until she said something, but she was right. When we reached the door, Mason tried the knob again, just for show. Still locked. Then came the bolt cutters. It didn't take much. The padlock was old, and with one loud crack, it gave way. The door creaked open by itself. Behind it wasn't a closet. It was a hallway. A full hallway, narrow and dark, lined with faded lockers. There were windows too filthy and covered in dust, but they looked out into nothing. Just blackness, like the world stopped outside. "This isn't on the blueprint," Malik whispered. He'd pulled up a floor plan from the school's website. We stepped inside. The air was heavier, not colder, just thicker. Our footsteps echoed too loud for the narrow space, and that burnt smell grew stronger. Every locker was shut, but some had dents. Others had scratch marks. Jenna reached out to touch one and yanked her hand back, swearing. Her fingertips were bleeding. Tiny, shallow cuts, like paper slices but from air. "I'm not doing this," she said. "Something's wrong." Mason, of course, laughed and walked forward. That's when we saw the classroom door. It had a small rectangular window covered in grime. But as we approached, a light flicked on inside. A dull, yellowish light, like old fluorescence. I peered in first. Students sat in desks. 30 of them, perfectly still, back straight, all facing forward. But they weren't students. They were wax figures. At least that's what I thought at first. Their skin looked fake. Glossy. Mouths slightly open. Some drooling. Eyes glassy, wide, terrified. They were wearing outdated uniforms from the 1970s, plaid skirts, sweater vests, ties. But one girl, she blinked. I swear she blinked. I stumbled back, heart racing. Someone's in there. Alive. Mason tried the door, but it wouldn't budge. He banged on it, calling out, but none of them moved. Then the lights in the hallway flickered, and a loud buzz rang from above. The PA system. We hadn't heard it since entering, but now it hissed to life. A voice came through. "Class is now in session. Take your seats." The door behind us slammed shut. We turned, trying to open it, but there was no knob on the inside, just a flat wall. That's when the lockers started banging. From the inside, rhythmic, aggressive, like fists pounding to be let out. 1, 2, 3, bang, bang, bang. Then, from one of the windows, a face appeared. Melted, half-burned, with no nose. Just sockets where the eyes should have been. Pressed against the glass, watching us. Jenna screamed. The classroom door creaked open slowly. Inside, the students had turned their heads toward the door. All of them, in unison. A single desk in the front row was empty. And then we saw him. A man in a charred suit stepped up to the teacher's desk. His face looked like wax that had been held to a flame. His eyes were pure white. He opened a roll book and called out, "Attendance." One by one he called names. Some old-fashioned, Emily Stone, Curtis Blythe, Harold Lee. When he reached Jenna Carter, he paused, then smiled. "I see we have visitors." We couldn't move. Our legs were locked. Jenna was crying. Malik kept whispering the Lord's Prayer under his breath. Mason tried to charge forward but collapsed the moment he crossed the threshold into the classroom. Just dropped like a puppet with its strings cut. 2 students rose, walked toward Mason, and dragged him to the front desk. He didn't move, didn't even blink. The teacher stared down at him and spoke again. "Late to class, Mr. Grant. That's a detention." Then he looked at us. 3 desks appeared from nowhere, scraping across the tile floor. Empty. For our other guests. I don't know how I did it, but I ran. Pushed Jenna through the classroom, ignoring the frozen stares of the wax students. Malik followed. We crashed through the back door, into another hallway, sprinting past lockers and windows that now reflected us, but without eyes. Then, the hallway was gone. We burst through the janitor's closet back into the east wing. Silence. No lights. No PA. No sound. Mason didn't come back with us. We told the principal, the cops, everyone. But the door to room 404? Gone. Just a concrete wall where it used to be. They said there was never a room there. Never a hallway. Never a Mason Grant in their records. But Jenna has the scars on her fingertips. Malik wakes up screaming about roll call. And me? Sometimes, when I close my eyes in class, I see a desk slowly sliding toward me across the floor. Waiting. Just waiting. Because the teacher never forgets. And attendance is forever. Every student who attended Ridgefield Secondary had heard the bell ring at 3:33 p.m. But officially, school ended at 3:30. The extra bell didn't sound like the usual shrill tone. It was dull, deeper, almost like a church bell echoing through water. Teachers never acknowledged it. When asked, they'd shrug or pretend not to hear. But for the students, it became an unspoken superstition. You never stay after that bell. Of course, no one could explain why. I didn't believe in any of it. My name's Eli, and at the time, I was a senior trying to shoot a short film for my final media project. I had this idea, Ridgefield After Hours, a mockumentary about school horror stories. It was stupid, I know, but it meant I needed night footage inside the school. I got permission to film as long as I had a friend with me. Enter my best friend, Kieran. He was the only one dumb enough to stay after with me. We planned it for a Friday. Less traffic in the halls, no teachers, and the custodian, Mr. Baker, didn't patrol the lower floors much. We started around 6 p.m. The building felt off almost immediately. Every footstep echoed too far. Every locker creaked on its own. But the weirdest part? The clocks. Every single one was stuck on 3:33. Even my phone blinked 3:33, no matter how many times I restarted it. "Maybe you should make this your film," Kieran joked. I laughed it off. Around 7 o'clock, we headed for the basement. It used to be used for storage, but nobody went down there anymore. Half the lights were burnt out, and the lower-level stairwell was blocked by a heavy steel door. Only Mr. Baker had the key. But I found one in the AV room, an unlabeled silver key hanging on a hook under the phrase, "Emergency Use Only." I wish I hadn't taken it. The basement stairs moaned with each step, and our flashlight beams seemed too small, like the darkness was pressing in. We reached the basement hallway, long, narrow, lined with forgotten metal cabinets and furniture draped in plastic sheets. The air was thick, still, heavy. Then we heard it. Ding. A single low bell chime, echoing from somewhere deeper. Kieran looked at me. "That's not your sound effects, is it?" I shook my head. We followed it. Past rooms labeled with numbers that didn't match any floor. B1, B3, B9. Most of the doors were jammed shut or welded closed. But one was slightly ajar, room B4. Inside was a classroom almost untouched by time. Desks were arranged in perfect rows, dust-free. Chalk writing still fresh on the blackboard. The date read March 3rd, 1967. At the front sat a desk, empty, and on the teacher's chair something odd. A bell, old iron, cracked down the side. Kieran reached for it. I grabbed his arm. "Don't touch it." Too late. The second he brushed it, the lights in the hallway exploded. Every bulb shattered one by one. The door slammed shut. Then we heard footsteps, marching, multiple sets, from the hall. Through the cracks in the door we saw shadows passing. Dozens. Some dragging limbs, some crawling. One stopped right in front of the door and slowly turned to look at us. It had no face, just skin stretched tight over a skull, with a gaping mouth stuck in a silent scream. Kieran backed away, knocking over a desk. The bell rang again. This time the classroom changed. The chalkboard now had bloody handprints smeared across it. The desks now occupied. Shadowy figures sitting motionless, heads twitching, limbs jerking like broken marionettes. Their skin looked waxy. Some had bullet holes. Others looked drowned. The air got colder. Kieran whimpered beside me, pointing. One of the shadowy students slowly lifted its head. It was me, an exact copy. But its eyes were pitch black, and its neck was twisted at an impossible angle. I backed into the teacher's desk. The bell rang again. All the shadow students rose. Slowly, mechanical. The door behind us creaked open. A man in a tattered suit entered. His skin was burnt to cinders, his eyes glowing red through hollow sockets. He didn't walk. He floated an inch above the floor. "Attendance," he rasped. I tried to move, but my legs wouldn't work. Kieran screamed and bolted through the back door. I don't know how long I sat there, frozen. But when I blinked, the classroom was empty again. Dusty, broken. The date on the board was gone. I stumbled out into the hallway. No shadows, no lights, just silence. I searched for Kieran for hours. The basement twisted. Some hallways were gone. Others led in circles. Eventually, I found stairs and climbed until I burst into the main floor. Everything was normal, except no one remembered Kieran. Not the office, not his parents. His name wasn't in the school system. I showed photos, we were in dozens together. Graduation, birthdays, everything. But in every photo I brought in after that night, his face was gone, blurred or scratched out. The cop said I was sleep-deprived. My parents forced me into counseling. But sometimes I hear the bell again, at exactly 3:33, and I know one day I'll see him again, in the classroom that doesn't exist, when attendance is called, and my name is last. It started the week after Principal Darren passed away. Everyone at Gallowmere High knew him. He wasn't the nicest, but he was strict, ran the school with an iron fist. No nonsense, no excuses. He died in the school, oddly enough, collapsed of a heart attack while investigating a noise in the West Wing one evening. They found him in the hallway near locker 237. Nobody talked about it much, but we noticed something strange right away. The janitors taped off locker 237 with bright yellow maintenance signs. Nobody was allowed to open it. The school said the lock mechanism was damaged and dangerous. Except, sometimes it would rattle, like something was trapped inside. One time, during chemistry, we all heard a metallic slam echo down the hallway. Our teacher, Miss Calloway, paused, her face pale. Then she quickly continued class, pretending she hadn't noticed. I'm Malik. I was a junior that year. My best friend Serena had this wild idea that the locker was haunted. She was obsessed with the paranormal, ran a tiny YouTube channel where she'd explore urban legends around town. Gallowmere High had plenty. The locker was just her latest excuse. She convinced me to help her break into it one night after school. I just need 10 minutes, she said. A quick EVP session, maybe a thermal reading. You run the camera. I agreed reluctantly. We snuck in through the side door after hours, using a spare key her cousin, a janitor, let her borrow. The hallways at night felt like they were breathing. The lights flickered with every step. The air was cold, too cold for late September. Our footsteps echoed like we were being followed. We reached locker 237 around 10:17 p.m. It looked normal, old, scratched up, a dent in the middle, a small smear of something reddish-brown by the vent slits. I told myself it was rust. Serena pulled out a digital recorder and whispered, "If anything's here with us, give us a sign." We waited. Click. The recorder's light blinked red for just a second. A static crackle. Then a voice. Faint. Male. Get out. I froze. Serena grinned like she'd won the lottery. She held the recorder to her ear again, replaying it. Said the same thing. We didn't listen. She pulled a small pry bar from her bag and started working on the lock. It wasn't hard. The old metal gave way fast. With a clang, the door creaked open an inch, and a cold wind howled from inside the locker. Not a breeze, a howl. Like the wind was screaming in pain. Serena stepped back. I lowered the camera. Inside the locker was a black void. No wall, no back, just darkness. Not like shadows, like the absence of everything. Then a hand shot out. Thin, pale, too long. It wrapped around Serena's wrist and pulled. She screamed, digging her heels in, but it yanked her forward. In seconds, half her body was inside. I grabbed her other arm, screaming her name. Another hand reached out, this one skeletal, burnt, with fingernails missing. It grabbed me. I felt cold shoot into my bones. My vision blurred. I saw flashes. Principal Darren, face twisted, eyes black, standing in the same hallway, clutching his chest, blood pouring from his nose. Then I saw Serena, standing in a different hallway, older, wearing a teacher's badge. Her face was blank, her eyes missing. Then it was gone. The locker door slammed shut. I fell back, wheezing. Serena was gone. Gone. I pounded on the locker, screamed, pulled at it, kicked it. It was sealed again, like it had never been opened. No gap, no handle, no rust, just smooth metal and the number. 237. The lights flickered. I ran. I didn't stop until I reached the exit. I called the cops. They found no trace of Serena. No sign we'd even been there. The janitor key was missing. The camera I brought? Wiped clean. Every file gone. Her locker was cleared the next day. Her desk too. Teachers said she transferred. But I saw her 2 weeks later, standing across the hallway. Her eyes hollow, her face slack, skin pale. She stared at me and smiled. And then she opened locker 237 from the inside and disappeared. That locker's still there, and it still rattles after dark. Some nights, if you press your ear close enough, you'll hear it breathe. And if you're really unlucky, it'll scream. No one talked about room 209. Not students, not teachers, not even the janitors. It sat at the end of the East Wing in Crestwood Secondary School, behind a rusting, padlocked door. Its windows were painted black from the inside. The hallway leading to it always seemed colder than the rest of the building, even in summer. Students passing by it whispered stories about flickering lights, books thrown by invisible hands, or hearing sobs when the school was empty. But those were just stories, until I got detention. It was October, and I'd been caught breaking curfew at the homecoming dance. Principal Madsen, who never liked me much, assigned me a unique punishment. Saturday detention, cleaning old storage rooms with the janitor, Mr. Hale. Mr. Hale was in his 60s, always smelled like cigarettes and coffee. That Saturday morning, he handed me gloves and a mop, and without saying a word, led me down a hallway I'd never been down before, straight toward room 209. The padlock was off. Thought that room was shut down, I said. He didn't look at me. Don't ask. Just clean. He unlocked the door and pushed it open with a loud creak. The room smelled of mildew, old wood, and something faintly metallic, like dried blood. Desks were overturned. Cobwebs hung like curtains. A chalkboard with half-erased writing covered one wall. He watches. Do not answer. The words were faint, like they'd been written years ago. I turned to ask Hale a question, but he was gone. The door shut behind me with a slam. Locked. I banged on it. Nothing. I cursed, then pulled out my phone. No signal. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, flickering. And then I heard it, a faint tapping, came from the corner of the room. At first I thought it was a leak, maybe a mouse. But then it grew louder, tap, 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 like fingernails on metal. I backed away. The tapping stopped. Silence. Then, a voice. Low. Croaky. Barely more than a whisper. Sit down. I froze. The nearest desk screeched backward, dragging itself across the floor as if pushed by invisible hands. Sit down. I sat. The room grew darker. The walls seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting like lungs. I could hear them, breathing. Then the chalkboard lit up, glowing faintly green. Words began writing themselves. What is your name? I couldn't move. The chalk hovered in midair, scratching the question again. What is your name? I am Ryan, I whispered. The chalk paused. Wrong answer. The lights went out. I stood up, fumbling for my phone. The screen refused to turn on. I used the faint glow from the emergency exit sign to orient myself, heading for the door. But the room was longer than before. Much longer, like the walls had stretched. A sound echoed, scraping. Heavy footsteps, metal against tile. I turned back toward the chalkboard, and he was there. A man, if you could call it that. 7 feet tall, gaunt, skin stretched tight across his face like paper. His eyes were just empty sockets, oozing black sludge. He wore a teacher's uniform, blood-soaked, buttons torn. And in one hand he held a long metal ruler. He pointed it at me. Late to class. I ran. The desks moved on their own, blocking my path. The walls rippled as if made of liquid. I tripped and fell hard, my knees smashing into the ground. When I looked up, he was standing over me. He leaned close. His mouth didn't move, but I heard the words inside my skull. Answer the question correctly next time. Then everything went black. I woke up outside room 209. The door was locked again, the padlock in place. My mop and gloves gone. Mr. Hale stood at the end of the hallway, smoking. You saw him, didn't you? He asked, not turning around. Who is he? The teacher who died here. His name was Anders. Killed himself in that room after one of his students went missing. Said the boy wouldn't answer him. Why was the room still open? He shrugged. Sometimes it wants company. I never returned to that wing. But sometimes, when I pass the east hallway, I hear it, tap, tap, tap. And if you ever enter room 209, just remember, always answer the question.